in fact itself can be a discrimination too. So what that means literally means now as you're coming in, the employer is looking at your resume. Okay, Ogbeni, you did OPT. Yeah, OPT is 1 year, depending on whether if you're in a non-STEM program. The guy can't take you.
This guy is gonna leave.
Like, so, the interviewer was asking, you already worked for Novartis? Yeah, I already did. Is it Novartis? Like, the guy said, are there two kinds of Novartis?
If you need visa sponsorship, say yes. If they are not going to take you at that point, then they know that they are not taking you.
The computer will probably, they already said it so that it just doesn't
screen you out.
Yeah. So, but if they are accepting you with you answering yes on that question, that means they should be ready or they are aware that you may need visa sponsorship. Now, it's not a guarantee that they will sponsor your visa.
Exactly. So if you don't get these insights and you just go there and be saying I have 4 PhDs in engineering, we've done mechanical surface analysis, which is all good to say. And then as you open the scenario, you have a conflict with one of your workers at job. What do you do? Oh, Benny, I will just burn the guy and focus on my business. I'm there to do my job. All right. If you don't have an American certificate, your chances go down drastically by probably 70-80% in terms of actually securing a job. Now, I don't have a statistic out there. I'm just giving you numbers off the top of my head. There's not been a study out there, so don't quote me. But I know significantly they prefer you having a degree here because the way the education system here is structured is very different from, especially I'm going to use Nigeria as an example, it's very different from the educational system in Nigeria.
It's more like you have a plan, but what is the guarantee that your plan will work?
One, and also you
better guarantee that your plan works.
To chip into what Blessing said, at that time, the way the question is worded is, at this present time, would you need visa sponsorship? Because you are saying you have a plan for the future, but the question is actually asking you now at your time of application. Do you already have a clear pathway? Do you have a green card? No. Do you have any other type of visas? No. I mean, the visas can come in the future. But I also think if you say no, it also limits your ability to get a job. Significantly.
Limits? It probably takes you away. This is not limited. This woman makes every student in the class. You join LinkedIn, you create your CV. She makes graduate assistant review everybody's CV. 2 pages, it gives you structure. She does that. When that is done, she brings old students towards the end of the class to come, like inside the class,
to give you insights. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you guys again. Welcome to the continuation of the last episode. And of course, on this podcast, you have 3 gentlemen, Aikohi, Eni, and Blessing. And we also want to thank our viewers before we continue, and also our current and new subscribers. Please keep listening to the podcast. Please keep spreading the message. If you think there are going to be people out there that might benefit from the information that you have heard and you feel that we're saying things that are pretty important, please help us hit the subscribe button and if need be, share as much as you can. So pretty much we're going to be continuing from where we actually stopped from the last episode. And we highlighted some of the challenges that can significantly impact your ability as an F1 immigrant to actually get into the job market. In terms of access, we mentioned a little bit about some of the visa and legal requirements that has to be met in the first place to be able to actually secure the employment, either through the OPT pathway for those guys in STEM and even the non-STEM occupations, and also for the guys that are actually going through the H-1B routes. So we also briefly mentioned about some of the things or significant challenges that are associated with language, how language can be a barrier, especially for people like us that are non-native speakers of the American English that actually immigrated into the country, and we have to listen to how the American English is being said and try as much as possible to imbibe the language to be able to communicate across different domains. And in continuation of that, we're just also going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that are associated with that process that can actually limit access to job opportunities. As a start, we're going to talk a little bit about credentials. So now, just to say this, it's very important to remember that in the US job markets, in my experience, and I believe this is the experience of any and Blessing too, if you don't have an American certificate, your chances go down drastically by probably 70-80% in terms of actually securing a job. Now, I don't have a statistic out there. I'm just giving you numbers off the top of my head. There's not been a study out there, so don't quote me. But I know significantly they prefer you having a degree here because the way the education system here is structured is very different from, especially I'm going to use Nigeria as an example, it's very different from the educational system in Nigeria. In Nigeria, our CGPA is over 5.0. So for those of us that understand cumulative point grade average, that means over the course of your, let's say you're doing a 4, 5, 6 year program, over the course of that program, based on your grades, they give you a particular score, which is over 5.0. In Nigeria, 4.5 over 5 is first class, up and above. It means you're really up there.
With the exception of University of Ibadan, 7.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
About in 7. Yeah, so I'm also going to say a little bit about Georgia State. Georgia State also have a slightly different scale compared to.
But it all creates the same problem that you're trying to say. You have to start converting.
So over here, their CGPA scale is 4.0. So what that means, literally, it's not 1 for 1. So if you have a degree from a different country or from a foreign country, right? So you have to do what they call a credential evaluation. And the credential evaluation, basically, what they are looking at is they are looking at all the courses that you actually took over the course of your study, looking at the grades and trying to match that with the grades over here to be sure that, okay, they probably give you a score and say, okay, yeah, it becomes comparable. Let's say, for example, you made a first class, right? You got a 4.5 or a 4.6. Then over here, probably that might put you at, I don't know, probably 3.8 over 4 or 3.9. As it is. If you have a 5.0 over 5.0 in Nigeria, then of course you're going to have a 4.0 over 4.0 here. That's how the credential evaluation works. So usually it means if you have a foreign degree as an immigrant and you come into the country, like for me, I was already a pharmacist, right? So I can't just come in and start practicing. For medical field, is a little bit different because the disease prevalence is very different in the temperate zone compared to the tropics. But I'm just using that as an example, right? You can't just come in and use your foreign degree, regardless of your years of experience, to start working here because it's not, you don't have the full recognition that the American system actually has because they feel the degree is a little bit different. So what that entails is you coming in with a foreign degree without having an American degree, employers are very uncertain if you actually have the required skill set or the required experience or the required knowledge. So you getting a job with a foreign degree without having an American degree is very low. So your job opportunity or access to the market is almost very negligible. So because of that, what they try to do is, especially for pharmacy, I'm using pharmacy as an example too, they try to do licensing exams and certification programs whereby they make you go through the system again, get you exposed to the kind of knowledge here, then actually give you something like a certificate or a license to be able to practice and work here. So that way you're able to actually get a job. So we know for some foreign degrees that are not in English, especially the Francophone guys, that also need translation. Because you cannot just bring a foreign degree that is in French The Americans are not going to understand it. So basically, there's going to be a lot of money being spent in doing translation, in doing evaluations, and all of that. So because of some of these challenges, you not having you having a foreign degree, you having to do a credential evaluation or having to write exams to get a licensure, you cannot actually get a job until you do all these things. Now, for an F1 student, that's very different because you already have an American degree. So that really doesn't actually applies. But you remember, even having a degree on your CV, usually you have experiences from back home. So on your resume, when you're applying for a job interview, it's not just going to be, oh, I have a Master of Science in Georgia State, correct? You're also going to list different experiences you've had, especially for some of us already had a career before coming in here. So now there's a lot of authenticity. I remember a friend tell me about one interview that I went for. This guy was also a pharmacist. He was working as a licensed back in Nigeria. I was actually working in one of these big corporations, right? One of these Novartis Sanofi guys came in during the interview. The interviewer was asking, you already worked for Novartis? Yeah, I already did. Is it Novartis? Like, the guy said, are there two kinds of Novartis? It's Novartis now, like the ones in Basel. Switzerland. Yeah, I said, really? Now the conversation was like, I didn't know Novartis was in Nigeria. Like, so you just felt that, are you sure you really worked? Like, I'm not saying that's what the interviewer was saying, but it begins to bring to mind, like, are you sure, it's the same parole that we are doing here that you guys are actually doing it? I mean, if you already have some hesitancy about your experience already, so that can also be, a significant hindrance to you actually getting that job if they believe that experience that you actually got in Nigeria is not translatable. Because that's what I could when I had the conversation with a friend, what I could get from the conversation, like it's not translatable. So basically, they are looking at you as you have no US experience, and having no US experience significantly impacts your ability to get a job. I've never seen a job that I have applied to that they put zero experience there. Rare cases, maybe 5%, you see 0 to 1 year experience. My brother, a lot of them, they're looking for 5, 6, 7. And imagine you that just graduated out of school. How are you going to fit in if your experience from your previous experience does not count? So you see, those are some of the hindrances into getting into the job market that a typical American will not have to have, because before they actually get into the market, they've done a lot of things from high school. It can be volunteer work, can be whatever they've done to be able to get that experience, in some cases. So by the time they are finishing their bachelor's or master's, they have years of experience already under their pocket that they can also use. And since it was done in the American environment, the interviewer believed that is also very translatable. So now the problem that also can lead to, apart from just limiting your ability to get a job, it means you also get consigned to certain roles. So what that means is they tend to put you in positions and feel, okay, this is your experience level is 0 to 1, when in reality you actually have 10 years experience. So you are greatly underutilized, right? So that means you're not even getting the desired job that you want, because you are looking at a profile on the job market or LinkedIn or Indeed, and you're like, oh yeah, I have 5-10 years of experience. I've been doing this for a very long time. But to the interviewer, he doesn't see that, right? So classic as example, I know somebody that came into marketing. I'm not going to call the name of the firm. This guy has been a marketer for like 10 years. Nigeria, done everything. Came here, during the interview, they actually gave him a job, but they started him at the entry level of sales. So somebody that did a bachelor's in the US, did 1 or 2 years of sales, came in as a sales specialist. This guy did a master's, have 10 years of experience, and coming in at entry-level sales. You see, so not just limiting the kind
of
job.
You want to try the person first.
Yes, because over here, they believe so much on US experience. They don't really believe that the credentials or the experiences you have outside of the US is actually translatable. So these are the things that we see every day in the job market, right? That's how the industry is geared. So I'm saying that to say this, that if you can actually do a lot of internships when you're in school, that helps a lot. So that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to say, as an international student coming in, you want to be able to. We're going to say this about strategies too, but I just wanted to chip that in. That one way to be able to overcome that is try to do as much internships you can, reputable firms, get this American experience, even if it's for a few weeks, a few months. Usually that actually counts. So that's in terms of credential recognition. Then another thing that also happens, it's like also limit your opportunity as an immigrant student for a job. It's discrimination, right? So we said something about the last episode where Bless was trying to explain that it might not necessarily be discrimination because it's a language barrier. How about language access is a form of discrimination? It might not be racism.
Well, I mean,
It might not be racism, but language access, right? It can be a form of discrimination. Yeah, I agree that it's usually at the discretion of the person interviewing you or the firm that's actually offering you the job. Because let me say this: you can have two guys doing interviews, right? Let's say somebody that has experience dealing with Africans or have done a lot of African interviews has a higher chance of hearing guys that are international students compared to somebody that has never had that experience. So what I mean is the process can be highly biased in the sense that somebody that's always had the ability to work with people that kind of have a different kind of accent, we tend to hear you more in a sense and be more open to actually give those jobs to those guys because they've seen you in the firm doing these things already and they know you can do it. So there's a prior knowledge compared to somebody that's never had an experience with that and is even skeptical to actually just look at the CV, and be able to give you the job based on the experience. Because the essence of a resume really is to highlight your skills. Communication is important, I agree, but I'm also saying communication is not only or shouldn't be the bedrock by which to determine whether the person gets the job or not. And 80-90% of the cases where language barrier becomes a problem, it is the bedrock why you don't get a job. Because they don't look at the resume and the skill set and say, oh, okay, this guy can actually do it, right? But I agree that, like you said, in certain niche fields where you have to communicate all the time, that becomes a higher percentage. But I'm saying in other fields where... Say that again?
Yeah. I just wanted to. I was wondering maybe what. Did you finish your thought? I don't know if I.
No. So I was saying basically in other fields where you don't have to worry about communicating a lot, I think it's only fair, to look at the resume and look at the skill set and look at the experience and, and say, okay, this matters. And I was just thinking about it now. There has to be a way whereby this experience where we have as internationals or as immigrants has to be translatable to the US experience. I'm thinking, is there a way?
So
how do we do that?
That's an interesting conversation. Like I was thinking about that too. But before I go there, just to react to what you were saying and maybe what Blessing said, I'm wondering maybe what Blessing was trying to say is using the word discrimination, and in that sense, just the word discrimination by itself, not connoting anything, because discrimination connotes generally negative. I guess what is maybe another word to use might be naturally self-selecting. If they cannot hear you, they don't even know if you will be able to do the job. To start with, I think maybe that's what it might be referring to, whereby discrimination is actively saying once this person is different. There are different ways. Because I'm thinking in my line of work where we do research, we actually plot a graph when we classify maybe outcomes, for instance. And one of the metrics we use is discrimination. How does it discriminate? Who has a disease or who doesn't have, that kind of a thing, and calibrates the grading. So I think maybe that's what it's trying to refer to. But of course, to your point, it is there. There's nothing we can do. It is there, and it's one of the challenge. We've been mentioning different things that someone has to try and find ways and strategies to overcome. But I think it's something important to mention that I think the point of the talk is that do all you can to at least come out, communicate properly so that you can cross that barrier and get a job. So now in terms of what you're thinking, I think you were thinking a lot about this, that how can we translate our experience? Sometimes it's hard, but I have also seen some people that have been able to translate their experience either trying to use it to count for some number of years. And I'm wondering, maybe it's field, maybe it's a combination of the field and the person, and maybe the network that was bringing them in. All these things starts to contribute. When you have someone that's already, you've spoken to someone else that you guys are pals, what you've done, all your story, what you've done, what you've achieved in Nigeria, blah, blah, blah. This person is super. Then you bring the CV and you're talking to someone that the person has spoken to already. Then your CV is looking different. So in that way, that maybe this person, and then the person is talking to you, and they are feeling you in this environment. Apparently this guy is good there, is good here. So maybe all that year we can add it up and just start the person at like needs management kind of level. But that, I think a lot of things needs to come together for that to happen. Or this is just me also thinking on the fly. There would be maybe some other ways to be able to make it happen so that all that experience doesn't go down. Yeah. Maybe another way that experience comes is, even though you start at the back, because you have those, if you have the opportunity, if it's a good working environment, you might be able to show yourself so that I've seen people also like climb a little bit quicker. Of course, cultural competence and all those other things, workplace politics comes in and all that. Mm-hmm. But because they already have all that skill, even though they are coming in at a certain level, they're then able, to move or feel more comfortable. People feel, this person knows what they're doing. They're more comfortable around them. You can now step them up. There's also danger to that. Sometimes you don't know the office politics. You start at a smaller level, or what they are doing is slightly different. They just keep you there. Like, let him keep continue at that point. Let the person just continue. So I think it's a balancing act in some ways. But I think what you mentioned is important to explore. What are some ways to try to translate as much as possible our experience to the workplace here? Because they are rich. These experiences are rich, and sometimes we're also able to proffer solutions because we have that diverse experience. So
because an ability to see things differently also helps a lot, right? Because especially if you something that you were doing previously and you're not doing it now, the advantage of that is the scenarios are very similar. If we're talking about, let's talk a little bit about, we've started with marketing. For marketing, I think the stories are usually similar, right? You're trying to identify a need, trying to provide a solution. So regardless of anywhere you are in the world, that's the template. So the only things that are going to change are going to be the individuals that are involved. But the process is the same. Yeah. So, and I think for somebody that has done this, regardless of any, whether you're doing it in China, Shanghai, or you're doing it in Mumbai, India, or you're doing it in Lagos, Nigeria, these things are very translatable. For certain fields, it's not, especially like I was saying about health, because of the disease pattern, right? We don't have Lyme disease.
Clinical guidelines and other things.
Yeah, we don't have Lyme disease in Nigeria. They have it here, West Nile virus, and also different, like you said, the clinical guidelines are different and what to do in certain scenarios. But for certain fields that basically, the scenarios are pretty much almost very similar, I think there should be a way for us to be able to harness that experience and be able to bring it to bear. Continue along those lines of discrimination. Now, another thing to also factor is, remember this: being an F1 student, in fact, itself can be a discrimination too. So what that literally means, now, as you're coming in, the employer is looking at your resume. Okay, Ogbeni, you did OPT. Yeah, OPT is 1 year, depending on whether if you're in a non-STEM program. The guy can't take you.
This guy is going to leave.
They might not say it out loud, but that in itself is discrimination, because it significantly impacts your ability of getting the job. Because they are thinking that within 1 year span, what can this guy really do? He's going to leave, he's not going to stay. And maybe he's saying not all companies actually have the ability, I won't use the word ability. Not all companies or not all positions that you apply to have visa sponsorship attached to it. So it means if you're applying for a position and the company is not interested in sponsoring visas for that position, they're not going to take you if you have just 1 year. There's nothing you really can do about it. Even if you now have the STEM, right, which is the extra 3 years, And we've said this already. Companies are not going to fight for you in the first day of your employment because literally that first day of employment is a proprietary phase. So what that means is they are looking at you. This guy, he said he can do the job. Can he actually do the job? Ogbeni has been here.
Before we
Ogbeni
commit,
has been here for
20,000 to immigration.
Yeah, to start filing for the person.
Yeah, Ogbeni has been here for the first 6 months. They are what tracking your KPIs, or key performance indicators, and seeing how this guy is he delivering. So I mean, it takes like a year, 6 months, a year to track that. And then maybe they're like, okay, as he imbibed the corporate culture of our place, he's actually delivering on the things, the deliverables that were actually assigned to the jobs. But now Benny has just 1 year, and you need 1 year to be able to get to start data out there. So which company is going to like, so boy, this guy has 1 year, we're going to take it. Except the position you're lucky enough has visa sponsorship attached to it, right? And for those positions, just also remember that the competition is stiff.
Everybody's looking.
More people applying for that position because not only you need the H-1B visa now, everybody actually need to stay and work and be able to earn living. So that significantly impacts your chances or the number of jobs that you can actually apply to. So being an F1 student or a J1 student significantly, it gives a lot of pause to employers or hesitations once they will also want to employ you because they have a lot of requirements they have to satisfy. How long are you going to be there? They have to also worry about the USCIS, making sure that job, especially for the H-1B visas, is not what Americans can actually do. If it's what Americans can actually do, then your chances of getting a job goes down drastically too. Then they also have to meet a lot of requirements in terms of labor laws, matching their information to be sure that, you are the right person for the job. So it's just a lot, in terms of administrative work or legal administrative framework that they have to go through to be able to get you that job. So,
and if I may add to that, just to buttress some of your points, I think that's one of the reasons why even when you're applying now in application forms, they always ask that question: do you or would you require visa sponsorship? And they expect you to say yes or no. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very, very essential that you respond like say that yes, if you do need.
But are you saying they should say yes when it should be no in some cases?
No. I think it's saying
why I said
needing. I think.
Yeah, the reason why I said that is it's better like.
Oh, so you're saying to always say yes to needing sponsorship?
No, if you need,
if you need visa sponsorship, say yes. If they are not going to take you at that point, then they know that they are not taking you.
The computer will probably, they already said it so that it just doesn't.
Screen you out.
Yeah. So, but if they are accepting you with you answering yes on that question, that means they should be ready or they are aware that you may need visa sponsorship. Now, it's not a guarantee that they will sponsor your visa.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say too.
But at least they are kind of, that is part of the consideration that was put into place before they hired you. So knowing that if this person actually performs very well, like you talked about KPIs, they have high KPIs at the end of the probation period, then they may be willing to, actually go ahead, to sponsor you. But for those that are not ready or do not have the money or do not want to go through the process of, sponsoring the employee, then there is no need hiring the person, at that point, right? And though some people, like I've had a conversation with someone before that also thinks or would think that question could be answered as no, because you may have an alternative plan on how to change your status along the way. So if you already have an alternative plan on changing your status within the next 6 months, then are you going to say, no, I do not need your help for visa sponsorship, even though you are applying as an F1 visa holder?
But you don't need them in that case.
Yeah. But then again, of course, you don't need them in that case. When you not think about it, it's more like you have a plan, but what is the guarantee that your plan will work?
One, and also you
better guarantee that your plan works.
To chip into what Blessing said, at that time, the way the question is worded is, at this present time, would you need visa sponsorship? Because you are saying you have a plan for the future. But the question is actually asking you now at your time of application. Do you already have a clear pathway? Do you have a green card? No. Do you have any other type of visas? No. I mean, the visas can come in the future. But I also think if you say no, it also limits your ability to get a job significantly.
Limits? It probably takes you away. This is not limited. So if they're not sponsoring, that's it.
That's it.
There's nothing you can do.
In fact, when you do the first screening, most of them, the HR is going to ask you again. You understand?
Yeah.
Even after you feel whatever you feel, they're going to ask just to, is that what the HR thing, just to clarify, just to check, are you going to need, even though you already feel it, they know what they are doing. And then they will now say, because we don't sponsor. So you know that they are just letting you know that if you feel or you have other plans, your plans better work. But for as far as this place is concerned,
We're not going to do it for you.
Yeah, some of they would ask you a lot of times the first screening with the HR person, just to emphasize that, you know.
So is that a discretion of the applicant or the visa holder at that point to decide what option to choose? We cannot really say what what they have to feel in that at that point, but we've made it clear, like, okay, it's when you're applying, at that point, if you already have a plan. Do you want to take the risk of saying no if you don't have a plan, or do you want to take the risk of saying yes, hoping they will still invite for an interview, despite saying you will require a visa sponsorship?
Some of them do, actually, if they are going to file.
Yeah.
Oh, and maybe I can add one of the ways to check. I think there are some websites where you can go and check if that company, I think is h1b.com or whatever, where they put the list. So they have the most recent, and you can look at the category of the person. Are they only sponsoring higher people, or, at your level? Even that policy, the fact that it's sponsored before last year doesn't mean they're sponsoring this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's just, those are just things you can put together to try and make sure, okay, is this, if you see someone that they sponsored, I saw someone like 10 years ago, it was the last time they sponsored 2 people. That this ones, they probably stopped that policy. But I think, I just wanted to mention that you can also check. Even some people may tell you they would sponsor blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of work to get to them sponsoring you as well. So
yeah. And I also wanted to kind of make some point regarding the previous point, credential recognition. I know you've moved on from there, but something just came into my mind that I thought I could just say as well. I was just thinking about how like really credential recognition can set people back in some ways when they come into this country, and more like starting life all over again. I know of someone who came into the US 2 years ago. He was a university professor. I don't know if he has resigned, but as at last year when I communicated with him, he was still a university professor in one of the universities in Nigeria. Not just a senior lecturer like a professor, but moved into the US. Came with a what do you call it now? Came with a okay, I think at this point, I think we're going to just Any should have posted here since he's out now. Maybe we'll just cut this part off, or should I just wait? All right, so going back to the credential recognition, I have an example that I just wanted to share. There is someone I know who is or was a university professor, back in Nigeria. He moved into the US with his family. They came with, I think, B1, B2 visa. That is a visitor's visa, like 2 years ago. And they decided they're not going back again.
Wrong move.
They decided
to say.
This is a university professor, right? But I mean, while at the time I communicated with him, he was still doing some work with the university, doing research and all that.
So back in Nigeria?
Yeah, back in Nigeria, but he's here. But I think he's still kind of communicating with. I don't know the kind of arrangements he made. But what is he doing here? He's not able to assimilate into the academic field in America because nobody, fine. He has all these years of experience in research, in teaching, and all that. But all the schools that he was trying to, see if they're going to take him in, even as an assistant professor, when they were just not, going to listen. Like you pointed out, they wanted him to at least have something from the US. like some kind of training,
Yeah,
certificate,
that's
but
what you
at
should
least
have done.
some
Yeah.
documentation, from the US, credential from the US, so that with that one they can easily, bring him in with all his years of experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now this guy, what he's literally doing, as at the last time I spoke with him last year, was doing all this delivery and Uber driving, doing Uber driving and all that. But like I said, as at that time, it was still working with his university back, at home. I don't know the kind of arrangements that he had, but as a senior professor, senior lecturer at that point, there are things that they can do to still be earning money. But
Yeah.
I don't know if that is still ongoing or if it has stopped, right? And then look at medical doctors, people with MBBS, even you guys with pharmacy degree. You cannot just come into the US and say you want to
Mhm.
start working as a pharmacist or as a medical doctor. You spent 8 years, in medical school. You come here, you just go to some hospital and say they should hire you because you have a medical degree from Nigeria or from another country. They are not just going to take you. You have to write some kind of exam, professional exam before they're able to assimilate you into the system.
Mhm.
But that is for those of you in professional fields. Somebody like me who did biochemistry, I cannot use my biochemistry degree from Nigeria to come in here and just say I want to get a job, in America. I mean, it's possible some people are able to do that, but it's one of the rarest things you will always see. One of the rarest occurrences that you can always see. They'll just want to make sure to see that you have a bachelor's degree, do you have a master's degree? Even if you have a master's degree, do you have some other kind of training, or certificate, 6 month certificate from here that you can blend that
Yeah.
could be
It's
as a path, like something to open a door, or for you. And that's why a lot of times I know a couple of people who actually read medicine, you know, back home, but they are not, when they come over here, they are not able to practice because when they think about the whole stress of writing the exams and, or they've even tried and they are not successful in passing,
Listen is
just
going far.
career.
We
They
will do
just
pharmacy in practice.
they just start doing something else. A lot of
Yeah.
people are like that. They just start doing something else. You find people who did it, who are engineers back home, coming over here and they're going back to read nursing because thinking nursing is like the in thing. As a nurse, you will never find work. It's easy to get a job, so they switch their career entirely. Their career path just changes, and
Uh,
it's so that's a major
yeah.
challenge and issue that people need to put in mind,
Yeah.
especially for those that are not coming in maybe to school or through school, you know, towards a job, but
Yeah.
once you just come in and start working, immediately,
Mm.
especially if you have, which is common among people who have stayed maybe even their 40s, 50s, coming here to start life again. It's difficult for them to start going to school to start doing something again at that point.
Mm.
They just want to start their life from there, and
If you don't like feeling lost but still want to move to the US, then tune into the McBleny Podcast show. Meet E&I, Blessing, and Aikohi, your friendly guides to making the big move to the US. Whether you're dreaming of new opportunities or reuniting with family, we've got you covered. Our mission? To give you the tips, tricks, and insights you need to navigate the immigration process smoothly. So grab your headphones and get ready to embark on your journey with us. Welcome aboard.
yeah. So I just thought about
I think
taking all those-
sometimes, I mean, what has happened in recent years, 5 years plus, so is this certification, especially in tech, that has helped a lot of people get jobs, right, without necessarily going through the school system. But I think sometimes some people just wanted to add this to the last point about professionals coming here and not practicing. Sometimes, most of the time, the barrier is the first thing. But another thing that happens is maybe the person had some other interest that they were not able to explore. Then they are here and it's easier to explore. And they find, oh, this is good. They just go that route.
Yeah.
That happens on some smaller scale.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to mention about the professor thing, which is kind of interesting because being in that system, knowing that system, working with that system,
Mhm.
even when you graduate from here, bro, You understand? Like you do the whole gamut of the everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. So at that level, people come from foreign with foreign credentials, but most of the time, the negotiation and the talk is already in place, or you are so huge in that space that you
Yeah.
are already working that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
already relating with these people on that level. Now me hold this side for this university for Niger. Now you
Yeah.
hold that side for this. Then they bring you in. Then they know how to guide you. Because I've also seen someone that even had this is a PhD from the UK, work with World Bank, blah blah blah. You know, those kind of things. Even getting into, to start that academic, they just put you on postdoc and try to see it. It's sometimes not very easy. The
Mm-hmm.
other things also is sometimes I think for some assistant professor levels, they want someone they don't want you to be that experienced because they are trying to. That's why they allow folks that are about to finish their PhD. They specify someone that is about to defend or about dissertation. Can apply because they want someone that can, they're trying to set up a team whereby these young folks can start. Maybe they're trying a new thing. You can start with that. You already have the US system and all that. So if you don't have that, it's going to be very, very, very tough. Just to speak along that line, man, you come here with your whatever lecturer you have in Nigeria, and you don't already have that network or those guys you're already talking with. It's going to be tough for them to. You just have to be very good. I don't know. Maybe if you volunteer to do research for some time and there's money in that school and your skill is just. Sometimes these things that you have skill or a technique that you do it in your sleep and folks are like, oh, this guy. Then things can start. They start looking at all those things that you have, like it's a big. But besides that, it's just words in the paper. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. So both of you have made valid points and actually highlighted what I was talking about, right? So for the F1 pathways, it's that some of these things might not apply just because you already have a US degree. But if you're coming in with other kinds of visas, then of course you have to be. These things are very, very important because then it limits your chances of getting a job. And just like Blessing have mentioned, there are some professions that you just can't practice. But especially in the medical field, you have to be able to get licensed, write exams to be able to do that. Even if you have an academic degree, I have a similar experience from a friend that just Blessing said. What the person did is there's something called a teaching certificate that they offer in certain schools. Like I know Georgia State offers that. So if you want actually get into the program, you go for that teaching certificate, you get it in the US, you get it in that school. Then what they do is they kind of do like a pilot class for you to see how you are able to share that knowledge. If it makes sense, then of course it's the conversation becomes very different. So those are the kind of some of the steps that you can actually do while you're in here. But the problem is you have 6 months as a visa, B1 visa. And a lot of these things that we're talking about takes longer than 6 months. So now there's chances of you going out of status. And so I think it has its own myriad of problems. We're not going to go into now because that's going to be a whole different kind of conversation. But those are some of the things some of the challenges, some of the ways you can actually tackle it. I think the cases I've seen where people can get a job outside of the US, I know this personally from friends, are nurses. I know a pharmacist that married a nurse in Nigeria. She got a job here already before she came in. So she was actually issued an immigrant visa right from Nigeria.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's right. The exam still.
Yeah, they wrote all the exams while being in Nigeria.
Yes, yeah, you still have
for nursing is a lot easier. It's difficult to do that with medical or pharmacy degrees because apart from the exams being so many, over here you still have to do something called for medicine you have to go get a match. For pharmacy you have to do an internship. For nursing, I mean, apart from the exams, there's really nothing else to do because you can get away with a lot of stuff. So once you pass that exam,
and well, I guess it depends on the state also because some states will require when you write the NCLEX exam, that gives you I think they call them the RN register, that makes you a registered nurse when you pass, and then some states will also require you to have. Some people before you get a job will require you to have like a license to practice as a nurse in a particular state. Like in Georgia, if you are applying for, to somewhere to work in Georgia, in the state of Georgia, not just having the RN license, but also being able to practice.
In the States. I think it's like this across. It's like this across all
Is
the.
that like this across the US? So that's what I was saying. I was saying, even for pharmacy, before you
Yeah.
can get a license, I'm saying the difference between pharmacy, medicine, and nursing is before you can get a license, you have to be in a posting in the US. You have to do probably an internship for pharmacy. There may be a residency program for medicine before you can actually get that license, right? So I'm saying for nursing, I don't know if they have to do a posting before Georgia gives you a license. I don't know about that. I might have.
I don't think so
So I think I
because
know
that's
I know for the
Yeah.
like for my guy, he didn't need to do that. I'm trying to remember the state he's in now. It's one of the states very close to Canada.
so there's a
So
pathway.
basically, after the NCLEX and all of that, she didn't need to do any posting because she already had the experience and they actually needed her. So she got an immigrant visa, got into the country, and started working almost immediately.
Yeah, there's a
And
pathway
it's-
earmarked for that part. So there are agencies that key into that pathway, that nothing immigration.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah. So she actually
make
used
sure
an
that
agency.
person fulfills all the requirements and just drop them inside that spot that they
And I think it's very common for people who are willing to practice in rural areas. Like,
Yes, for areas where you don't have heavy nursing or
so
nurses.
like rural counties where they don't have a lot of people that want to go and work there. Even at some point I've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, that if you want to work in Alaska, Alaska is not a place where the state of Alaska is not a place that a lot of people go to because of the conditions, one of the coldest, places and all that. So, but it's easier finding jobs, especially professionals, because they don't really have a lot of professionals that want to, go work there. So if you're willing to come from outside the country and you don't mind going, I mean, Nigerians, you find Nigerians everywhere, anywhere, as far as there's opportunity. So if you don't mind going to somewhere that is rural county, maybe some rural hospitals, they are looking for nurses. Write the exam, you pass the exams, even like medicine or even pharmacies and other professional.
Yeah, it applies to all. That's what I'm saying. It applies to all the health field generally. So yeah,
it's easier to get those positions in such settings.
Blessing, the interesting thing, some of these things that we are calling rural is the designation. Sometimes when you get to the place, it's
not very
designated rural. It's not the way we are calling rural in our mind.
No, I think for us it's different because our understanding of rural is maybe a typical village.
That's what I'm trying to put out there.
But over here for the US,
of
it's
course,
different.
it can be like small, blah blah.
It's
blah.
a small.
But sometimes you're like, how is this place rural?
Yeah. Especially, I understand.
Maybe you're just like 20 minutes away from like but that place is designated rural, maybe medically underserved. In fact, there's some cities that are medically underserved.
On the 7,
So it's possible, maybe they use the both designations. I don't know I don't know the details, but I know because I do this type of research actually. Some places that will be rural. And when you go there, you don't feel like I'm going to die here.
Yeah. As an African,
But some places you would, though. Some places you would. So it's just figuring out what the place is like, checking, the setting and other things, gathering information that is necessary to make that decision. If you have that opportunity.
Yeah. So fantastic. So just to get to the last point, which is networking. Networking is also, I think networking is actually. If you're talking about the scale of things, it's really up there when it comes to actually getting a job in the job market, right? So if during your program, I'm saying this for students, go for conferences, not just go for conferences, try to create a lot of networks while you're in school, do a lot of volunteer programs, because at the end of the day, these things can help increase your chances of actually getting a job once you're done with school. Right, because there's the official job market, and of course there's the informal job market, and the informal job market is where people actually get the jobs, which comes with referrals, which comes with a phone call. I give you guys a classic example in the previous episode about the body of mine, same lab, went to finish postdoc from Baylor, got a job in Texas in the industry, as a consequence of actually being in that lab. So that just tells you how networking and connections in the US is also very important. They make it feel as if now only Nigeria did it. Now lie you, my brother. You see that when they use it for Nigeria, they go say, oh boy, you need to know person. My brother, everywhere in the world, you need to know someone.
In fact, at some level, the higher you go here, it is probably the only thing that is left.
Yes.
In fact, it's the only thing that is left.
To know someone.
Everybody have their PhD, they have years of experience, they've done the different.
It is
you
key.
have that. So
it is
very, very
key.
crucial.
It is key.
And you mentioned something about conferences. I think it's good to go and also try to network during these times. I've seen people get a job from conferences by attending the events and speaking up. Then maybe you try to email someone before. Then you can also meet them there potentially if they respond to you, or you try to start it up there. In fact, I remember going for a PhD. I think in 2016, I went with Dr. Regan. Of course, I'm always worrying out with questions that is out of syllabus. So I think she went for an event. I wasn't even there. She met one guy from Egypt. He's a pharmacist and he's a professor somewhere. So I think they got talking for some reason. I have this boy, blah blah blah. So I sent an email for both of us. So I responded. Then I went to greet the guy in the morning. Then later in the afternoon, I was just chilling with the guy. Then we went to attend one of the sessions. During the session, that I'm blood to the earth now. When the person present finished, now so me come ask question. I didn't. It was just like I just asked question. I didn't know the guy was like, this guy come here, come they ask question. So like that impression was so good that we kept talking afterwards. Of course, he didn't give me anything, but when I needed a reference, I needed to ask something. He was willing. He was there. Like, okay, what does this guy need? That kind of a thing. Okay, I can write you a letter. Whatever that was. So those things are actually good to try and keep doing. Because if I needed a job, maybe he noted the things that I said or what my interest might be. It's easier for him to translate it to someone. And when, like you said, when someone already spoke about or for you before you even show up, it's like you have it now. Is your opportunity to mess it up.
It's an opportunity to mess it
up.
Assuming there's not so many
people, assuming there's not so many people that have that level of connection, because most of the time you have the skills, right? Almost everyone, it's just that networking piece. Besides all the technicalities of CV, trying to escape ATS and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to emphasize that importance of networking. It's just always important.
Yeah. So thank you, Annie, for that. Yeah. So like you already mentioned, it's very important to have a good structured network while you're in school. One of the best way to do that is through conferences, and all the conferences you can also do. For me, I understand this was also important. You guys can also work together on a research project, and that's also very important. Because that's a very good way to have a solid network. In my case, that was important, and not just for referees, also for even setting jobs, because seeing somebody else's name as part of a publication or having knowing that you've actually worked with this person, it just gives you open doors to certain fields in science. Because this guy is a top. There's a professor in Georgia, I'm not going to call the name, but anybody that went to Georgia did organic chemistry know that, don't worry, in the US, once you call that guy's name, like you've worked with this guy and that guy just say, okay, well, boy, where do you want to go? Is it Nestle? I have some students there that are finished from my program. Okay, you go and talk to this guy. He gives you specific names. Like that tells you. So you don't have to be in his lab, right? You can do a collaboration project with his team, right? Get him to be on that publication and using that connection, because you guys are working on similar projects. Of course, since he's on the project, is usually they are one of the corresponding authors, so he's willing to listen to you and also even give you the guy's very approachable. The references, and he doesn't even need to tell the person you're coming, but once they see that reference, then the conversation switches to about the guy. How is this guy? Oh, more this guy has been doing so, like similar to what happened with my guy in Baylor. So that's some of the pathways that are very important and can also significantly impact your chances if you don't have the right networks, right? Because not only you that apply for the jobs. Like any talk, everybody get the skill set. More people even get the experience past you. So what might actually give you an edge is personal knowledge. Like I know this guy, I have seen this guy's work, and I trust this guy enough that he can actually do the job. So when you're doing the interview already, having that personal knowledge, the interviewer has already have a prior information before you coming in. So as long as you match that information, the chances of you not getting the job from the interviewer part is low. So that's why networking is a very important. It gives you an edge. So you have to keep on networking because, and if you don't network, you also lower your chances. Building relationships is also very important.
Mark, before you continue, I just wanted to highlight something that I saw about networking that I've just not seen anywhere. It's this professor, Dr. Eden. She's now retired. I took her class. She teaches transfer pricing. Man, she's like, I don't know how, but she's like one of the best professors ever. This woman makes every student in the class. You join LinkedIn, you create your CV. She makes graduate assistant review everybody's CV. 2 pages, it gives you structure. She does that. When that is done, she brings old students towards the end of the class to come, like inside the class.
To give you insights.
When that woman, she also gives you how to, all these etiquettes. When you go out, when you want to eat, she has a docket. She shares it with you and say, if you want to learn and practice,
this is
on
what
Saturday. I'm like, who is this person? Like, that confidence, everything you need. You have folks coming from everywhere to come and take that class. And they get jobs, especially international students.
Because she knows the format.
I know folks that got jobs from there live, sitting in the same class, live. So she makes sure that, so that LinkedIn page, once you take that class, you are in that page. Like, she just keeps adding. I'm like, this person is, she's phenomenal. I mean, I'm like, how does someone think about it this way? Because that's kind of like the height of it. I taught this person, what I deliver. And in that field, actually, she's like maybe top 3 in the world, in that field. She writes books about taxes, international. I'm like, man, this person is just awesome. So it makes it, I know like 3 people from that class that got the job immediately before we finished the class. Not the ones that went ahead and still got the job. Well, it was just, that really helps. That really helps. So networking is just important,
Yeah. So moving on, thank you for that, Annie. Building relationships actually can make or break you too. It's also part of networking. But I think it can also limit you too, in the sense that, I already highlighted this. Like, if you already have a language barrier, it's just human nature that when you feel it's difficult to communicate with people, it's difficult for you to want to associate with them. And so if you can't have the right associationship or the right relationship, and that's even going to also hamper your chances of actually getting a job, So cultural differences can be some of the things that factors into that. Language barriers can also be another factor that factors into that. Then, of course, the hesitancy in the employers looking at where you are coming from and say, is this guy going to be able to blend into the workplace norm? That is also a very big issue that I've begun to notice that is becoming a trend, because there's something about the workspace in America, right? They have a workspace. Each job try to create an identity in terms of a workplace culture. So if they are recruiting, right, they always have that at the back of their mind, like, oh, this guy has the skill, he has the credential. Is he going to be able to fit into the workplace culture? So what I'm saying that to say this is, once you want to apply for a job, in terms of building relationship, it might be nice to look for somebody already working there in that particular company, right, that you are applying to. Let's say, for example, you want to apply to Guinness, right, or you want to apply to Johnson and Johnson, or you want to apply to Pfizer, or one of these big guys, right? So it's helpful when you already have, if you know somebody in there. Any mention LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a good platform to be able to connect with people and see people that are already working in certain spaces. You can meet the person and like, bro, I'm applying for this job. I'm not just getting a referral, because referral helps, but also trying to pick their brain if they have the time to tell you that, oh, okay, for the interviews, these are what they expect. These are the norms in the place. They expect you to come in and say, see, there are certain phrases you just say. The interview don't end. The interviewer will not tell you. right? Because that phrase is just going, because they usually ask these questions like, well, what do you think about maybe inclusivity, or what do you think about certain aspect of the workplace culture that is not even connected to your skill? It's not connected to what you did in terms of experiences, or what you did in the lab, or what you did in terms of your degree. This is just like everyday scenarios, right? So they are looking for certain phrases, certain keywords. How are you going to know that if you've not built up a relationship with anybody working in there, or you don't know the right trigger phrase to actually say? You don't say the wrong things. Of course, the guy doing interview just smiles and like, oh, but anyway, we're not taking this guy. So no matter the skill set. So that significantly also hampers your chances of getting a job. Building the right relationship, reach out to guys. I'm just giving you guys some of the strategies to go around that challenge. Reach out to the guys, in the firms. Know the right norms within the company, because getting a job is not just about skill set alone. Because they look at skill set, look at experience, and also look at how you fit into the company modes, or fit into their norms. And if they feel that you're not going to be a right fit, even if you have all the skill set, the chances are, because this is on the HRO end. HRO are usually not really. So interviews is funny. They start with HRO because they are more interested in their workplace culture, to be honest. They are not starting with skill set. Skill set to them, they believe that with the ATS system, for you to get to that first phase where you are speaking with somebody, you already have the skill set and the experience they need. The computer has been able to pass that information and let them know that, yeah, these are the guys that we want to talk to. So now that talk with the HRO, well, they go ask you about your skill set, of course. But the HRO I won't say they are more interested in about mission, statement, values of the companies, and all of that. So that is the questions that their minds their conversations are actually get to. So if you don't get these insights, and you just go there and be saying, I have 4 PhDs in engineering, we've done mechanical surface analysis, which is all good to say. And then I ask you, per the scenario, you have a conflict with one of your workers at job. What do you do? Oh, Benny, I will just bone the guy and focus on my business. I'm there to do my job. All right.
Behavioral questions.
And to be honest, that cannot be far from the truth, because once you get here as an international student, you begin to understand the individual nature of the lifestyle here. So you might think saying that actually sending the right message. Because over here, the emphasis is on the individual. They don't really care about that cooperative lifestyle that we have in Africa. But in a job setting, you can't not go and say you don't want to be cooperative or buy into the workplace culture. So, I mean, it's good to do your job, but it's also good to carry people along. So knowing the right phrases, knowing the right people in the place, getting the right information before going for an interview, preparing mentally, not just to answer questions related to your skill set, but also to answer questions related to the mission statement and related to the values of the place is also very important. So I think these are some of the things that can significantly hamper your chances as an immediate or a newly graduated F1 student in actually getting into the job market. So I know in upcoming episodes, we're going to be able to, tell you some of the key things to do, number of applications to send, and ways to reach out to people, to be able to form the right networks, some of the ways to overcome some of all these barriers and challenges that we've highlighted. But this episode actually emphasizes some of those challenges. And so if you guys have anything you want to chip in, it's fine. And if not, then I would just quickly summarize and get to the end.
I think it's a great episode, and breaking into the job market is important, especially if you're looking to advance your career here in the US. And some of these techniques that we share are very, very important. We hope you are able to watch, enjoy, put your comments, like, and subscribe. That way we can know how to better, communicate, how to better serve you in a way that it's going to be beneficial to you and your time. This is very, very important. Time is of the essence, everywhere in the world. It's a currency, it's money, maybe even money squared. So we want you to have the best of time. So please like and subscribe, and also share the links.
Sorry, great job, Aikohi, for the for the wonderful explanation and helping to kind of break these important pieces apart, for our audience and our listeners. And like I said, please subscribe, like, share, give us a feedback. We always want to get feedback from you and your questions, your experiences, your thoughts. Would want to hear from you as often as possible. And from my side, I'm looking forward to seeing every one of you again at the next episode.
All righty. Thank you, Blessing. So for me, it's bye bye from here till next week.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.